Okay guys, in today's video we are going to be talking about the key tactics that allowed us to break down Getafe's anti-footballing tactics, which has worked so well for them against Barcelona in recent years. It's called the low block. Inter Milan does it, Chelsea does it, and tonight Getafe did the same thing. But I think Hansi has figured out how to break it down, and in the next few minutes I'm going to demonstrate this to you using 3 key points. But first I want to begin with the lineups, because Barcelona started with a 4-3-3 with John Garcia in goal, Koundé and Gerard Martin on both full-back positions, and then Christensen and Eric Garcia in central defence. Now in the midfield we had Frankie de Jong, Pedri and Dani Olmo. In the attack, however, we had Rafinha, Lewandowski, and to my surprise, Ferran Torres started out on the left, which we're going to talk about in a bit. Now Getafe, on the other hand, started as expected with a 5-3-2. Now at first, when you look at the formation, it looks like it's a 4-4-2, but it's actually a 5-3-2 because Jene was like a 5th defender. But what he was doing was, he was sort of rotating across that defensive position, sort of like playing a free defensive role, but sort of adding as a 3rd central defender / defensive midfielder. And I want you to keep this in mind. Now, I actually quite like the choice to start Dani Olmo ahead of Fermin, because I think, unlike Fermin's aggression, Dani Olmo gave us a bit of that incision, allowing us to be able to break those defensive lines that Getafe were putting forward. And that was really effective throughout the game. Okay, so for talking point number 1, it was the decision to start Ferran Torres and Lewandowski together. Now, I must admit, when I saw the team sheet, I was quite surprised that Rashford was not on it, because obviously, man had an amazing game against Newcastle, so he seemed like the obvious choice on the left. A part of me thought Flick wanted to give him a rest, but then there was other players from the Newcastle match that also started this as well. And then I thought maybe it was a bit of man management. Maybe Ferran Torres might be feeling like he didn't really play a major role against Newcastle, so Flick then decided to give him some playing time today, but none of that was the case. It was actually intentional. Now, the only other time that Ferran Torres and Lewandowski have played together, I think, was against Levante, and that was because we were desperate for a win. If you remember, Lewandowski came in and Ferran Torres was still on, so we finished that match with 4 attackers. But tonight, it was a bit more intentional from Flick, because you see what Getafe like to do when they face us is, they'll play 5 defenders, and then because they always expect us to play 4-3-3, that would mean that we'd have 2 forwards at either flank, and then we'll have the centre forward isolated in the middle against 3 defenders. So what Flick decided to do this time around was then move Ferran Torres inside. So it was sort of, we're playing with Rafinha out on the right and 2 centre forwards. So Lewandowski was sort of acting as a decoy. And so the 3 central defenders would then have 2 strikers to contend with. And that would be Lewandowski's physicality and Ferran Torres' mobility. And this happened all through the game because Lewandowski was acting as a decoy. Obviously, with this tactic, what's going to happen is that you're going to lose your left back, because we had Gerard Martin going forward to sort of play as our left winger. But Flick did have a fix for that, because often we saw Christensen moving over to the left wing to cover up for Gerard Martin, and also Pedri would drop back because we know that Pedri is very good at recovering balls. So let's talk about what this means on the pitch, and there's no better way to demonstrate this than with the first goal. Now let's look at the first goal. If you look at when Rafinha gets the ball out on the right, look at Lewandowski's starting position. As soon as Lewandowski spots Rafinha in possession, it's like everyone already knew what to do. Now look at the starting positions of all our forwards. Now Lewandowski is running into the box to drag the defenders along with him. Now look at the left wing is empty. There's no one there. Usually would have Rafinha or Rashford out on the left, which will isolate our centre back. But Lewandowski starts making the run in the box, so he's dragged 1 defender along with him. And then as soon as Rafinha cuts inside, look, Dani Olmo's already signalling from that distance to Rafinha to lay the pass in. Look, now as soon as Rafinha then lays that pass in, can you see Lewandowski taking that defender away? Now, Dani Olmo is taking the other defender with him because that's who the pass is intended for. Now, at this time, they don't see Ferran Torres as the danger man, because Ferran Torres is not in the left wing position, but he's actually waiting to pounce. It's actually all intentional. Look, as soon as that pass is given, that's when Ferran Torres starts to make the run, because now the defenders are gone. 1 defender is on Lewandowski and the other one is on Dani Olmo. So that leaves the middle open. By the time Getafe are realising where the danger is, Dani Olmo's already laid the pass on the back heel to Ferran Torres, and Ferran Torres just finishes that easy. Amazing team goal, but again, it's down to that double centre forward. That is totally genius by Flick. But it didn't just end there. It happened again in the 3rd goal. Again, it's Lewandowski playing as a decoy. Now look what happens. As soon as Rashford gets the pass, Lewandowski started making a run. As he's making the run inside, the two defenders are running to close down because now they're spotting two men as the danger men, Rashford and Lewandowski. Now look at Rashford. Rashford sees the run. He sees the runners coming in. The defenders are backing our players, so they don't really know what's going on behind them. They just know that they can sense that Lewandowski's coming. Now look at Rashford. He buys a bit of time, runs in. As soon as he gets close to the goalkeeper, what does he do? He lays the pass out. At that time, Lewandowski's already dragged the defenders away, but he intentionally leaves the ball because he understands that we've got midfielders coming behind him. And that's what I was talking about, our midfielders and the fact that they're starting to get involved in the attack and shooting more regularly. Because look, as soon as Lewandowski leaves that ball, we had Ferran and Dani Olmo. So either of them could have finished it off. And good enough, Dani Olmo was on hand to put the ball on the back of the net. But again, it's that movement from Lewandowski and acting as a decoy. That's what gave us that third goal again. So I think this was absolutely genius from Hansi Flick. Okay, so my second talking point is team dynamism. Now, to demonstrate this, I want to focus on 4 players. And the first one, Rafinha. So Rafinha started on the right just like he did against Newcastle. And if you remember my analysis of that, I said he knows that he can't really take on players like Lamine Yamal would. But what he does is he's extremely intelligent at playing to his strengths. Because I think Rafinha literally killed off the game in the first 45 minutes. He didn't even need to show up for the second half. But don't take my word for it. Let's demonstrate this. Let's look at the first goal. I want you to look at Rafinha on the ball. As soon as he receives that ball, the defender thinks he's trying to take him on. And so he's already set his body position for Rafinha to make a run. Rafinha already understands that he's not going to do that because he's not Lamine Yamal. But he tricks the defender into believing that that's what he wants to do. So as soon as that defender puts the wrong foot in, Rafinha then cuts inside. Now, as soon as he cuts inside, he's already seen the run of Dani Olmo. Now, Koundé plays an important role because Koundé takes Janae away to open the passing lane. Now, look at Koundé. Janae's going with Koundé because he doesn't realize where the danger is. Now, as soon as that passing lane is opened and Dani Olmo starts to make that run, Rafinha lays the pass immediately. Now, it's the intelligence and it's also the quality to be able to pick out that pass. Now, as soon as that pass is given, everything else is clearer from there. The clarity comes in. Kudos to Dani Olmo for being able to pull off that back heel because it was a magnificent back heel. But that pass from Rafinha is what opens that play up. But what's even better than that? Let's look at Rafinha on the second goal because a lot of people didn't spot this. Now look at Rafinha on the second goal. He actually starts the press. Look, he starts the press on the Getafe defender. Now what that did was that forced him to play a rushed pass. Now look at that pass. It's a rushed pass that Eric Garcia is then able to intercept. So Rafinha started the move, but he didn't stop there. As soon as that pass is given, he has the awareness to start making the run. Look. And so as soon as he starts making the run, because he already understands, look, he's already started the run before the ball even gets to Garcia. And so he's lost his man already. As soon as Garcia then gets that ball, he's able to play that pass. And kudos to Garcia for playing that pass quickly over the top. And then as soon as he plays that pass, look, Rafinha's already almost one-on-one. Now, that's not even the most intelligent bit. Look, as soon as Rafinha looks like he's one-on-one, he doesn't make the run. He fools the defender into thinking that he's actually making the run. And so that defender, out of desperation, then goes to Rafinha to make a tackle. And then what happens? Rafinha just easily lays the ball. Look, easy pass. He just lays that down for Ferran Torres, who's one-on-one with the goalkeeper. And he's able to then lay that. But look at Rafinha with the intelligence. He's playing to his strengths, being intelligent, knowing when to release the ball. And that's exactly what he did against Newcastle. And he's done that even better tonight. Unfortunately, typical Rafinha, he lost his head a bit and he had to be taken off, which then introduces the next player that comes in for him, and that's Marcus Rashford. Remember, it's still about that team dynamism. He played on the left against Newcastle. This time around, he's starting on the right. And he didn't just play on the right. He actually gave an assist because look at the part that he played in the goal from Dani Olmo. I want you to take a look. Obviously, we know how quick Rashford can be on the counter-attack, but look at this. As soon as Casado plays the ball over the top, Rashford is on the run. He's off. But look how he takes a quick glance across his left just to see who's coming, and then he starts to make that run. And I've already explained this, how he was intelligent enough to wait for our attackers to come forward before then laying that pass for Dani Olmo to finish. Amazing team dynamism. Rashford starting on the right this time around. So Flick was being really, really smart with his tactics. Now, for my third player on the list is Eric Garcia. Again, Eric Garcia is somebody that's turned into our utility man. He's literally played in every position in our backline. And remember, back in the day, Xavi used him a couple of times in defensive midfield as well. But today he started off as a centre-back. And remember, it was his quick thinking that allowed him to play that ball over the top to Rafinha that led to the second goal. But he started the game in the centre-back position. But then when Gerard Martin was taken off, he then moved over to the left. Again, Flick is making sure that anytime we're lacking a player, Eric Garcia is able to fill in for that player. And that is really important. And I'll tell you why in a bit. And by the way, I was really pleased to see the fans clapping for Gerard Martin as he was taking off, because I think he really did need that encouragement. He's had a rough couple of games and it's often been our point of criticism. So I think today he had a really, really good game, because I think he was being targeted early on by Adrian Lisa on the right-hand side. So I think he did really well, and Christensen was able to cover for him. Pedri was also able to cover for him. So I think he played a good game today. But my fourth player on this list is Ferran Torres, and I've already spoken about Ferran Torres and how amazing he was, so I'm not going to bore you with that, but that's my fourth player on the list. But the whole point about team dynamism, what does it all mean in practice? Well, what this means is that because of the cap on our wage bill that doesn't allow us to be able to sign players, Flick has now figured out a way to rotate the team and enable us to be able to play in different positions. So that means that for every position, you have somebody that can fill in for someone else, and I think that's been working really well. And then secondly, the team has become unpredictable, because that's exactly how we hit Getafe today. They didn't know what hit them. Normally against Getafe, it's usually very tight. You probably see like a 1-0 or 2-1, but today it was easy. 3-0. It was very easy because they didn't have the right tactics to stop us. And that's because of how unpredictable we were on the night. So those are the two key benefits of being dynamic as a team. Now, my point 3, honourable mentions, and number 1 is Pedri Gonzalez. Pedri was brilliant in midfield again. Guys, I'm getting tired of saying this, and I've honestly run out of adjectives to describe Pedri, and I know you lot feel the same. It's those give and goes, the intelligence, the way that he's able to control the game. He knows when it's time to inject a bit of urgency into the game, and then he also knows when to slow things down. I just think that his intelligence is just off the charts, guys. He controls the game so well and dictates the tempo, and that allows Barcelona to function at our peak. I think today was another masterclass from Pedri, but every day is, literally. Now, my second player on the honourable mentions list is Dani Olmo. I mean, what a way to come back into the starting 11 than with that magnificent back heel. It's not just the intelligence, the improvisation to do that, the timing, but it was also the quality to be able to pull it off. That was actually like he made that pass facing Ferran Torres. Because a lot of players would be in that position, facing Ferran Torres and still not be able to pull off that pass. But he did it with a back heel and he went straight, the perfect weight, the perfect position for Ferran Torres to then finish off the ball. And also he did really well on the goal to be able to finish up that assist from Rashford. So I think it was an amazing display from Dani Olmo tonight. And the last player on my honourable mentions list is Fermin Lopez. Now, if you look at how important Fermin Lopez is in terms of our team dynamics, now he's come in the 59th minute and started off on the left because obviously Rashford was on the right. But then in the 75th minute, when we bring on Rooney Bargi, he then moves to the midfield to allow Rashford to be able to play on the left. And I just think that sums up Fermin for you as far as the midfield and attack is concerned. But I'm keeping this as an honourable mention because Fermin Lopez, again, gives us that dynamism and allows Flick to be able to rotate and move things around. So I think that was really important for us tonight. And so tell me what you think, guys. Has Flick mastered the low block, or do you think that it was just Getafe being poor on the night? For me, I think I'm seeing some massive improvements with this team and they're starting to look like champions. Again, if you enjoy content like this, leave a like, subscribe so you can help the channel grow. And most importantly, leave me comments in the comment section. I want to hear your perspectives. That's what community is all about. And see you soon, guys, and Visca Barça.